चैट पर भेजा यार। संकेत एक बार भी चेक कर लियो डिस्क्रिप्शन वगैरह के बाद।
हाँ मैं चेक कर रहा हूँ। 1900 or 2000 members all around the globe. And we also had a significant amount of attendees from India. So that's something to celebrate for. And yeah, so this year is gonna end, and we thought like, what's good way to end it with Python daily meetup. So here we are with the meetup, and so let's start. Yeah, so who are we? Basically, let me just give you a brief about like what NumFOCUS is and what PyData is. So, I think most of you in the who are watching the live stream would be familiar with the tools like Pandas, NumPy, Scikit-learn, Matplotlib, etc., etc. So these are all open source data science stack, and these are all open source data tools. And NumFOCUS is an organization which basically supports all these tools by fiscally sponsor them and providing them support and giving them all the help they need in terms of developers, time, and every other thing. And PyData is basically education initiative by NumFOCUS, which is like a series of conference and meetups all around the globe. And I'm very happy to say this, like PyData has around 160 plus chapters all around the globe, and Delhi is actually maybe fourth or fifth largest one, and largest one in the Asia. So yeah, I mean, we've come a long way, and we've been doing these meetups for the past 4 years, and conferences and a lot of good stuff for all of you. Yeah, so as we all know that this year has been tough, and mostly NumFOCUS is dependent upon the donations that we get from PyData meet conferences, meetups, and all the open source print and everything we have, and all the different events that we do to basically support these tools and get donations from everyone. So this year it has been tough, and due to COVID, because we didn't have any physical conferences this year, and all of the other things were basically being put to a got a roadblock in between. So NumFOCUS. So this is like a year-end fundraiser which has been started by NumFOCUS. You can also go to the website and donate any amount you want, and this basically helps everyone and helps the sustainability of the long-term sustainability of all the tools that we use in our day-to-day life. And we also have like a GitHub page for NumFOCUS sponsorship, so you can go over there and check it out. So yeah, we are streaming live on YouTube because yeah, that's what we do. And this is the link if you want to redirect some of your friends directly to the YouTube stream. So we have Cheuk, and we all know her in the community by her name Cherry, and she was one of the chairs of the PyData Global this year, and she has been giving a lot of talks recently. I have watched a few of her tutorials on Twitch. Yeah, she also does live streaming of Twitch, and Cheuk works as a developer relations at TerminusDB. Yeah, and more of that in a minute. I think uh, she would be more easily able to introduce herself. Yeah, way to ask questions. So yeah, we have YouTube chat, and yeah, feel free to ask us any question in the meantime. And this is a workshop, and we expect all of you to code alongside with the speaker, and we would be keeping an eye on the YouTube chat. So if you encounter any error or anything that you would like to ask, please post it on YouTube chat, and we'll be sure to pick it up and just shoot your questions to the speaker. Yeah, so it's like for every physical meetup we have a code of conduct that we need to follow, and it's imperative that we also follow these code of conduct into our online setup. So just like a brief version of code of conduct is like, be nice and don't spam the YouTube chat and ask appropriate questions. And if you want to read the full code of conduct, it's available on the link which is on the bottom of the screen. Yeah, so we are every time we are looking for good speakers to give talks, and if you want to submit something, it could be a talk, it could be a workshop, it could be a lightning talk, which is like a 5-minute short talk. You can just head over to this link which is on the bottom of the screen and submit your talk over there, and we have reviewers, and we pick up your proposal from over there, and you'll be ready to give a talk. And if you so apart from that, if you don't have any topic, or if you don't have any material to give present to us, just ping us directly on our Twitter, and we'll be more than happy to help you out and shaping your thought into a good proposal for the talk. Yeah, make sure you get the link on the bottom of the screen. Yeah, so where to find us? We are everywhere on social media. You can see that we are on Twitter, LinkedIn, Meetup, Instagram, Facebook, and GitHub. So make sure to follow us, and our handle is @PyData. Yeah, interestingly enough, we also have our Google Calendar. So if you just go to this link, you'll get subscribed to our Google Calendars, and we post all our events, community calls, meetups, and conferences over there with the links and everything. So it's like a very easy way to get notified for the upcoming meetups, and all the events. So yeah, make sure to go to this link and subscribe to our uh, community calendar. Yeah, let's get started. So over to you, Cheuk.
Hello. So yeah, I'm actually also watching the YouTube stream, but I don't know the technical setup. I guess like I would just let the tech team do the magic, and I would. So do I have to share my screen for it to work?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's some settings in Zoom that I'm not allowed to share my screen yet. I think the
All right,
host
just
need to. Yeah,
I'm sorry for this. Just give me
that's
a
okay.
second. Before this, there was you can actually share your screen in Zoom, but I think after all this Zoom fiasco, everything went,
Yeah.
crazy, and yeah,
Right, so I guess now you can see my Jupyter notebook. So yeah,
yeah,
let me know if there's any problem with that. But you can see that this actually, I think the organizers already shared the report in the
yeah,
when you sign up on Meetup, then you will see the link there. So I hope you already cloned it. If not, actually, maybe in the chat we can type in the link as well if you can help me to type in the chat for the link where to download the repo, that would be great because I know that there's always someone join last minute and I didn't
yeah.
prepare anything.
I
But
I think we have the link in the description, so I
right,
think that won't
okay,
be a problem.
right,
Yeah,
that's handy. So yeah, just
yeah,
click on the link, go to that GitHub repo. Actually, is a GitHub repo that I set up for JupyterCon because this workshop was actually it was appeared in JupyterCon before, but I think that not many people have done this, so I think it's good to go over it here with you all, and it will be a shorter version because JupyterCon the workshop's supposed to be 3 hours, which I think is a bit too long for Saturday evening for you all. So I would just like kind of go through the first two notebook, which are all the basics that you need to learn uh, to be able to proceed to the third one, because the third one is more or less like a final project that you put everything that you learned together. So don't worry, you'll find all the help you can afterward as well. But I think it would be good that if you have questions when you go through the notebook here now, you can just type in the chat so I can get to your questions as quick as possible. But otherwise, you can still ask questions after. And also, so yeah, this is the Jupyter notebook that there are some instructions here. I think the most important thing is that you know where to get the Bokeh documentation, which I think that it will help you a lot. Like because I know that sometimes like if you ask question, you may not get an answer immediately, but the most of the time you can actually find your answer in the documentation. So just yeah, use it kind of like I always have it at hand. I always open it in my tab. So when I need to look it up, sometimes I forgot the syntax or this thing, you can just go to the documentation. So that's a good habit to have. Also, I have set up a Git channel that if you click on the link here, you will see it actually. So yeah, so this there's actually no questions yet, but feel free to ask anything here. I would check it, once in a while. So and also other people may also help you to chat. So I just kept set it up so people who are doing this tutorial can always have a place to discuss things, to kind of share information and things like that. So you can do that as well. So yeah, we don't have office hour, but now is the office hour, so you can ask me anything. um, so okay, prerequisite. I kind of expect everyone to learn, already have some experience with Python and Pandas. If you don't worry. Like I said, all the resources actually are online, so you could get some help, you can try to go through the tutorial without much knowledge. But if you're struggling with Python or Pandas, you can always get help online. But to be fair, because this is a workshop for Bokeh, so I would mainly answer questions about Bokeh. For Python and Pandas questions, I would suggest you, try to look at. There's a lot of online resources, or ask your friend or ask the community. Community members are very friendly and happy to help. But I would, prioritize Bokeh question first. So yeah, for the first notebook, it will be the Bokeh basics. So it's just about like very simple things about Bokeh, what Bokeh can do. So for those of you who don't know, Bokeh is an interactive visualization tool. Because I love visualization tool. I love Jupyter Notebook. You can see that I'm using Jupyter Notebook for everything. Like when I'm teaching a workshop, or when if you have watched my live stream, I always use Jupyter Notebook because it's so good to have something that runs on your browser. It's so much convenient for me. So I love Jupyter Notebook. Also, is a very, very handy tool for data scientists alike, because it's good to present your data in or your code and your data in a format that is fairly accessible to your colleagues. So it's a very good tool. So Bokeh actually works very well in Jupyter Notebook because Bokeh is actually original, like, well, the back end of it, at least, that is run on a JavaScript engine. So some of you may know that JavaScript is basically a programming language designed for web browsers. So because Jupyter Notebook run on a web browser, and also Bokeh kind of have its backbone integrated, with JavaScript. So it's kind of like a tool that you could build a very beautiful interactive visualization without knowing many JavaScript, right? Because you can build a lot of things. You can, well, people build web app with JavaScript, but not, well, we are Pythonistas. You may be someone who work in data, the data world, that you focus on, doing things with data. So you don't need to necessarily learn all the skills that a web developer has with JavaScript to be able to create those beautiful visualization that you could, use in a presentation, or pass it on to your colleague who can have like a small handy tool for them to understand the data, right? So it's good to to be able to do that. So it's kind of like our Shiny app. So I don't know whether like some of you maybe already have experience with our and Shiny app. So it's kind of like an interactive dashboard, right? So it's again, it's a very good tool for people who work with data, who want to present data, because sometimes statical, like graphical presentation doesn't show everything. So you may want some interactivity for your user, for the people who you're presenting to find some answers by themselves. So it's very good skill to learn. So yeah, estimate time, we would definitely not have enough time, but don't worry if you can continue to work on it afterward. Like I said, need your all the help that you need will be online. It will be available. It's just that we are not doing it together at the moment, but we'll work something together, a little bit something together, but not everything. Okay, that's fine. So first of all, if you haven't done it yet, install Bokeh. It's fairly easy. Just pip install like your other things, or Conda install if you would prefer to use your Conda environment with it. So yeah, you can even do it in your notebook. Just uncomment this and then run this cell. It will just install Bokeh for you. So it would just take a little while. Depends on your internet connection, but it shouldn't take too long. So after that, we can also, there's one thing to notice that, for example, if you read the Bokeh documentation, a lot of times that the Bokeh documentation will use output file. This is but in this notebook, we would use output notebook. So the difference is that output file actually would generate an HTML file with your interactive plot as a separate file that you could save. You can email it to your colleague. You can upload to your blog. I've done it once. So it's quite nice, but not what we are doing today. Today we are just like, it's more handy if we have it kind of like inline. So for those of you who have used Matplotlib, so you know that there's Matplotlib inline, which means that generate the graph in the notebook. So output notebook is kind of like that. So it would just generate interactive graph in your notebook. So it's much easier for you to see, for you to, make some small changes and see the results immediately. So that's what we got to do for this notebook and the next one. And so you see that this is kind of a 101 example, I would say. It's just a simple scatter plot. So all these so far, you just need to run the cell. There's nothing you need to worry about. It's just, for you to get started. So you see that bokeh.plotting is kind of like a basic. Most of the thing you need will be in plotting. So yeah, and then you do the figure, which actually is kind of like creating a canvas, a space that for you to generate your graph. And then output notebook, I've already explained that this command just tell Bokeh that kind of like your percent matplotlib inline kind of thing, that it will be in your Jupyter notebook. Show is a command that basically load in the so kind of plot the graph. So kind of without show, it won't show anything. It will just assume that you're still building on your graph. It won't generate the result yet. So very straightforward. You will need an x and a y, a set of x and a set of y here. In P is the figure, right? So figure actually is figure is the class. It generates an object inside. You can call circle to plot a scatter plot with circle as your marker. So you see here, so it's a little bit too big, right? But we haven't changed any setting yet, so this is kind of the default. But you can see how Bokeh work here. You can actually zoom in, like you can use the tool to zoom in. You can zoom out, and I don't know how to. I think refresh. So this is refresh. So it's reset things. You can save it as a file here on the right hand side, the toolbar. You can see you can move things around with this tool. So for example, if you got loads of data that some outliers are way above or way below, then you can move to see those outliers if you want to, or if there's a cluster of plots that you can zoom in and out. So it's very, very convenient. So that's why I love Bokeh. So so this is just the basic function that we're using, right? We just plot some graph that we got a toolbar that we can zoom in and out and all these things. But of course, there's more than that. But we are just we have to learn how to walk before we run. So we would just do these basic things first. So this is quite ugly, right? Like I said, well, it's so big, and I only got 3 points. This doesn't make sense to make such a big plot. I can see everything. So so what we can do is that we can change the plot width and the plot height in figure. So in this exercise, we will change them both to 400. So I will actually not do it here. So you can. So I want you to basically do it yourself. So so this figure, and then we add in 2 parameters here. The plot width and the plot height should change it to 400. So if you're struggling, you can always, like I said, go to documentation, and then you can look, you can search things, right? You can go to user guide, and then you can, search maybe like, okay, figure, right? So I'm showing you how to find things. So, plot the figure. Yeah, this is probably what we're looking for. And we can look at it as like, okay, so we have all these things that we can do. So yeah, just try to look for maybe the plot width as well. So maybe look at plot width to see how it got changed. Yeah, so you can see all this customize, so here's already an example here. So yeah, it's so easy for you to find a solution in the documentation. So that's why I'm not typing here. I'll leave it for you. So maybe I would take a few minutes, so in case if you want to do it now, but otherwise I will just continue. So if there's any questions, it's a good time to ask a question now.
I'm keeping an eye on the YouTube live chat, but I don't think we have any questions so far.
Right, that's okay. Yeah, I just actually want some time to sip some water, but that's okay.
Yeah,
like I
sure.
said, you have all the time in the world for you to finish afterwards. I will just go on and explain the exercise after, and so you can actually do it yourself. So after that, we can change the size, right? But we can also change a lot of things. For example, we are now using p dot circle, right? So like I said, this kind of make the marker become a circle. So we could actually change the appearance of this circle. You can change the size. So you can also make it bigger. So you can reuse the code if you have done it, then you just change the size of the circle to 10, so it will be bigger. And also you can change the color as well, right? So yeah, there are many colors. It's not just limited to olive or red, blue, green. There's more. I don't know how much you know your colors name. There's, well, like I am learning because English is not my mother tongue. So there's lots of colors like salmon. What's the color of that? Like burgundy. All these like color names that actually some of them, like, well, most of them you can use it in here, and Bokeh will recognize those. So you can also check it in the list, so you know that which color you can use. Also, Alpha, if you have done some, graphical design or things like that, then you know that Alpha actually means the transparency of the picture or of something. So you can change it into semi-transparent by setting it to 0.5. Other appearance change, like I said, replace a circle with square or with other things like there's lots of option. You can make it into a star, make it into a funny symbol and things. So check it again. Everything you need to know is in the documentation. So I won't put everything out, but you can also always check it yourself. So make some changes to square, changes to something you like. So that's for the scatter plot. That's quite kind of like the basic of the basic. And now we can do line plots. So there's just missing a bracket there, but that's okay. So yeah, so instead of circle, we'll use line. So line is not making, it's not making the dots become lines. It's just like it means that it's a line plot. So it would join all these circles, kind of dots or whatever, together. So you can see that now our circle is gone, the marker is gone, but it will be joined together with a line instead because we just do p dot line, right? You may wonder, how can I have both? Well, you'll see later. So yeah, it's exactly the same as before. It's just that I changed circle to line. It become a line plot that, they all join together. Again, it's quite ugly. So make some cosmetic changes, change the line color, you can also change the line width. Again, change the size of the figure to make it look nice. Again, it's kind of like an open-ended exercise that you could do whatever you like. So if you want multiple things, you could actually, for example, I want 2 line plots together. So well, you can just do p dot line for one thing, change the color to red, and then p dot line for the other thing. You can change the color of this one as well. So you can have 2 plots kind of overlapping each other in the same area. So yeah, so now it's kind of answer the questions. You can change one of the line to circle, and then basically you have 2 plots together. But what if the points are the same? So you have 2, you get what I mean, right? So try it out yourself. Otherwise, yeah, this is quite nice. Other things that we could do is bar plots. So bar plots, there's 2 options. You can have vertical, you can have horizontal plots. So you could, so it's kind of similar again, like figures show this is kind of standard, but you change it into V bar, that is a vertical bar plot. So the setup is a little bit different. Instead of a set of X and a set of Y, well, we just need a set of X, which where the bar plots start. Like, we have 3 bars here at 1, 2, and 3. And the width of the bar, the bottom, so they all start at the bottom at 0 on the y-axis here. Like you can see, well, this is so big. Yeah, you can see 1, 2, and 3 at the x-axis, and then the width is 0.5. I think it just means one way. So this is extended 0.5, extended 0.5, and the bottom start at 0, right? So this is also like all of these are controlling the appearance. So top is very important because you're showing the values of the bar. So these are like where the top of the bar ends. So you can see it's here. Right. So again, you can make it horizontal. So I think the funny thing is that bottom and top kind of instead of this, it would be like this. So yeah, it's a bit funny. But yeah, try it yourself. Again, you can make some changes to the width, the color, and the alpha. So try it and make it pretty. Change it up a bit. It's a good exercise. So again, it's kind of, you have to be creative and artistic and make it pretty. you can spend as much time as you like I said, because like that's why this is such a good exercise to do it yourself, because you're not limited with the time. You can do as much change as you like, right? So so this one way of doing a bar plot, but you may ask, okay, so now X is kind of like a value, right? So what if it's a categorical data? Then I won't have, 1, 2, 3. I would have like cats, dog, rabbits, or I have, different name of the country, different name of the color, or different things, right? Or sizes of a T-shirt. So so you would have categorical data that what we'll do here is slightly more complicated now. So I have a list of pets here. So these are the categories. So we have to do some settings in our figure, because the x-axis now is not a number, right? So it's not a numerical value. So it's instead it will be this list. So we will set x range as a list with our category here. So now we can set the x as pets. So instead of putting a list of number, we'll put a list of things. So and then these are the same with bottom and top. So we have 2 cats here, 1 dog, and 4 rabbits. Okay, so this is how you do it. So kind of like this is like a kindergarten project, right? So it's like count how many cats are in the farm, things like that. But yeah, you can do it in Bokeh as well. You can, so this is Bokeh is also a very good education tool that if you make it interactive, like I show you at the end of this workshop, then you can use it as a tool to teach kids, counting and all this simple, simple statistic and things like that. But professionally, if you're presenting it in your business meeting, you won't have this kind of cute things, right? You will have something more sophisticated, and you may need some captions and legends to help you to show to maybe your boss or your manager that, okay, so this is the sale for this item or this, right? So you have to have some legend. So what you do is that you can add the title just by putting it in figure. So it would add a title. Yeah, this is very straightforward. And for legend, you add it by in here in the V bar, you just add in legend label to be my pet. So you can see here that, oh, so yeah, this is my pets. But this is not telling much, right? So you may want to have something that is more sophisticated, or you may want to change the location of it. Well, I don't like this because this is overlapping my plot. It's not pretty. So you can actually do the legend, the location, change the location of the legend from right to left. So now it's not covering anything. So yeah, you can so you can again like look at the documentation and see what you can change. For example, you can change the legend label. Yeah, you may don't want it to be my pet, or you may want to add a title to your legend. So you can also change that up as an exercise. Okay, so I will take a few seconds break to sip some water, and again, feel free to ask any questions because it's going quite fast, and you can try a little bit of the code. Okay, so assuming that you're so far you're doing all right. Then
seems like, yeah.
Oh, do we have questions?
No, I don't think so. Like, so I was just wondering, like, do you want to just quick check the Gitter chat if there are any questions over there?
You mean the Gitter chat?
Oh yeah, Gitter.
The Gitter chat, there isn't any, but I mean, like, if you're following along right now, I would recommend, if you have questions, do it in the YouTube chat first, so we can see it, and then Gitter chat is more for when we are offline, then you could still ask questions there. So it's kind of like a backup. Yeah. Yeah. So okay, and then it will get more and more complicated. So I really recommend you get some chance to try things out and ask questions if you have, because it will get like complicated very soon. So now it's just like, oh, it's like trial play, but it'll get complicated soon. And so because we are condensing everything, right? We are trying to learn to create an interactive app within 2 hours. So this is quite fast. But like I said, don't worry, or your help is somewhere. So now we are using Pandas together with Bokeh. So of course, we're using Pandas with Bokeh. You have to install Pandas. So if you don't have, I don't know why you don't have, but if you don't have, again, run this cell in uncommand and run this cell, you install Pandas. Pandas is slightly bigger, so it may take a little bit longer to install, but it shouldn't be taking your whole day, so don't worry. And then we have the Pokemon data. It should be in the somewhere in the repo as well. Yep, here this should have the Pokemon data is loading for me. Yep, it's here. Make sure that you have that, and then you can import it. Okay. So I assume that you already know how to read CSV from Pandas. If not, that Panda documentation will help you out. And then you can print it out to have a look at the Pokemon data. You can see that if you're a Pokemon fan, then you know what they are. Bulbasaur, of course, like it's a glass type Pokemon. And then there's all these stacks that they are in Generation 1. So yeah, the Ivysaur, all this. Yeah, I kind of like already have the image of the appearance in my head because I know some of them.
Yeah, these are the Pokemons that you get into in the first season or maybe the first few episodes of Pokemon.
Yeah, so in this file, actually, I'm just printing 5 of them, but like in the file itself, like it got generation 1 to 6, I believe. So it got lots of Pokemon in it. Yeah, so you can group by generation, like I said. So you can group by. So this is grouped by generation 1 to 6. Yeah. So yeah, so these are the total. So there's quite a lot of Pokemon, and so this means so it's just like the average of their HP and their attack. So HP means health points, I guess. So if you play games, you know what is HP. Attack against the attack point. So it's like how strong they can attack people, and special attack because some they can use their special attack because they're Pokemon. So again, defense, special defense, speed, how fast they can take the turn and attack. Legendary is, well, it doesn't make sense now. It's just a 1-0 kind of thing that say whether they are a legendary Pokemon. So yeah, the mean value doesn't make sense for this one. But yeah, you can see some of them, and so you can, you just show that like what you can do with Pandas here. You can do a group by, but the cool thing about it is that I can save this table that we created as a column data source in Bokeh. So we just need to import Bokeh.mod, like column data source in Bokeh.models. And then you just say that, okay, we have created an object that is a data source object, kind of like a data frame, but Bokeh doesn't understand data frame. So we have to change the data frame into a column data source. So so this is the object that we created. We just say that, okay, the data is actually from this data frame. So inside the column data source, then it understands data frame. So it's kind of like a middleman between Pandas and Bokeh itself. So so yeah, also column data source, you can put in dictionary data, but here we're using Pandas because I know that everyone use and love Pandas. So yeah, you can set the data into a data frame. So this is the data frame that we generated with the group by, and then we just put it as the data source. Okay. And now that we can use it to plot the figure, right? So again, we want to have a title because we want it to be pretty, and then but I don't know why I don't reduce the size, or because maybe this one is more busy. But oops. Okay, give me a second. My computer is yeah, it's lagging a bit. It's fine. It's fine. We'll be fine. So we plot a bar plot, and so X will be the generation. So you can see that, well, now instead of putting a list, remember before we always put a list as X, right? Now we don't have to put in a list. Instead, we use the column data source to our help. So sorry about the scrolling because my computer is complaining that I scroll too much, but that's fine. So we use the source here. So we just say that, okay, we use this data source as our source, And then instead of putting a list as X and top, we can just call in the column name because we have used column data source. And a column name for the X that we are plotting the generations, right, with different generations. So the X is actually our index here, the generation. So we have so you can see that we have a named index that's called generation. We use it as the X. And then the Y, because we want to see the HP, so we would just have a column HP here as the Y. So we just put in the column name. So this is very nice if you're using Pandas instead of, you may have a very big list, right? Because if you are plotting a big chunk of data, then you may need to use this method instead of putting a list. Again, just change the legend so it doesn't cover things. So you can see now we have the X as the generation. So this is generation 1 to 6. And then, so these are the HP, mean HP values. So they're more or less the same. So there's nothing very imbalanced, like generation 6 is super strong, super tanky. No, it's more or less the same, which is a good thing. So you can also change the appearance. So I'll leave that to you. Again, you can copy and paste the code and do changes yourself. You don't have to write all the code from scratch. Okay. So now you can create layouts. So there are lots of times that we don't want to just present a plot that's super big, right? We want to have maybe subplots within a plot because we're comparing things. So we can actually create layouts. We can use column, which the plots are in, columns, so side by side. Rows, so the plots are, on top of each other. And then grid plot, you can have a 2 by 2 or 3 by 3 plot. So it's very useful when you're doing something like facet grid or things like that. So, here we're just making something simple. So yeah, okay. So I haven't really run this cell for some reason. Let's see if I can run it. Maybe I can't because I haven't imported Bokeh, so I have to go back and run it. So I'm not running it now because otherwise I have to scroll all the way back up and run it. So I'll let you do it yourself. So you see that we will have 2 plots, like kind of next to it, on like top bottom, and then you can actually change it. You can make it, side by side as well by changing row to column. You can also make a grid port. Just refer to the documentation to see how you can make a 2 by 2 grid or a 3 by 3 grid if you want to. Of course, you need to have more than P1 and P2, right? You need 4 plots, but you can, copy this and then call it 3 and 4. So you have 4 plots, and then you can now see how you can create a grid port. So it's a challenge that I challenge you to do it yourself. So I think that's the end of the first tutorial. So if you have questions, it's a good place to ask. And then I think the organizer could now play some music and let you work on this notebook for a while. We'll come back in 9 p.m. Your time, and then we'll start the second notebook. And please try all this exercise yourself. I think you should have enough time if you just quickly go through them. But if you don't, that's fine. When we come back to the second notebook, you can pause and then come back to it afterwards. Okay. If you have any questions, if you encounter anything that you're not clear, ask in the chat. We will be looking at the chat. But now I think I would let some music play.
Yeah, so we would be watching the YouTube chat, and please feel free to go through the notebook and ask any questions if you have. So we'll be taking a small break and maybe around 15 minutes. Yeah, and we'll be back after that. we're live now. We're back. Hello everyone. So I hope everyone has tried the first notebook and they didn't have any problem. So if you still have any problems, any questions, you can ask in the YouTube chat and we'll be happy to take them. Happy to shoot them to the speakers. So meanwhile, we're going to start the second notebook, which is interactivities in Bokeh. So yeah, let's start and over to you, Cheuk.
Right. Hello there. We are back in business. So I hope you having a good time trying the first notebook and you don't have too much issues with it. Like as again, you can type in chat. I will try my best to help. And then even if you have questions after today's meetup, you can even like use the Git chat. Try to connect with everyone who is doing this workshop, and hopefully we would help you to go through your to build your first app. So so now you already know some basics about Bokeh, so you already can plot something with Bokeh that taking advantage of its functionality of having the toolbar on the side that you can zoom in and out. You can move it left, right, all these things. Um, uh, but that's not all Bokeh can do. Oh, by the way, for the toolbar, actually, you can, if you don't like it on the right hand side, you can change it on top or the bottom, or even if you don't want it, you can remove it. So it's quite nice. Again, I won't go through how to do this. You can go to the documentation and figure it out yourself. But what I want to talk about in this notebook is that you can actually create an interactive app, or you can call it interactive dashboard if you want to with Bokeh. What do I mean is that you can create some, for example, a slide bar or some input bar or options that you could choose so to change the appearance of your plot. So that's very, very cool. I haven't seen anything like that in Jupyter Notebook before I was playing with Bokeh. There may be other tools that could do similar things, but from my experience, I found Bokeh is quite simple and easy. You just need to learn a little bit of JavaScript, not a lot. I am not a JavaScript developer. I just know a little bit because some of my colleagues, they are JavaScript developer. But you don't have to know a lot about JavaScript to be able to do that. Or even if you have never read JavaScript, you just need to find the equivalent of JavaScript for, you can write down your code in Python first and then just look for the equivalent in JavaScript and then change it a little bit. It's fairly similar to Python, so you don't have to worry about it, even though you're like, oh, I've never read JavaScript before. Don't worry, it's not difficult. And today we'll go through that. So again, I assume that you already know Python, know Pandas, and done the first exercise, so you have some experience with Bokeh. It would be good if you have some experience with JavaScript before, but like I said, you don't need to know a lot, even though if you have no experience, you may just need to do more Googling of translate your Python code into JavaScript code. So that's what I did actually. So no worries about that. So the goal is that now you would know how to make some widget yourself. So those, interactive kind of user interface thing, we call them widgets. So you know how to create them and how to use them together with your plot. Also learn about the custom JavaScript callback. So this is kind of the wire that connects your widget with your plot. So that's quite quite crucial. So learn about that. And also we will learn how to use JavaScript to actually manipulate your data. So this is again a crucial part of how to change the appearance of your plot, because well, if your data change, your plot will change. So that's actually quite handy. So again, you may need more time to finish this exercise than what we have given you, but you can always finish it afterward or do more afterwards. So don't worry too much about the time limit. So first of all, let us have a look at widgets. So widgets, like I said, is kind of a user interface that the user can interact with to have some kind of user input in a kind of a GUI, like a graphical user interface kind of sense. So instead of, Jupyter Notebook is always, you can always change something with your plot, right? You just need to change up your code or load in some new data and, run your code again, then of course, your graph will be updated. It will change the appearance. But the problem is that if you export it as an HTML file, then it won't be interactive anymore. So if you give it to some of, for example, the sales team people or the manager who doesn't code, then, or your clients who doesn't code, then they would be like, okay, so what if I want to change up something, right? Or what if you want to, for example, there's two categories of data. There's one that's for the local market, the other for overseas market. So if you want that toggle between the business, right? So that's why having this widget is a good thing. It's mainly for people who don't want to read your code and change your things in your code, right? You can always, of course, like, oh, you just change the label, the column from local market to international market, then it would do. But your clients won't be able to do that because they won't read your code, right? So you need some simple thing that they know what to do. So so a lot of things are available in Bokeh. You can always check it in the documentation. So like I said, documentation is your Bible for Bokeh. So a button is a very simple thing that a lot of times that you may find it useful. So the most simple thing is that you just create a button with a label. Now we call action. So sometimes to maybe after all this like user changes, then you click action, then the action will really apply. You don't want to change it every time someone make changes because that would really slow down. Because, well, you may have the same experience as me. You open many tabs in your browser, and then too many JavaScript running at the same time, it will be super slow. So sometimes you want to only run JavaScript when it's needed. So to not make your computer super slow. So it's something that a button could be useful. Now it does nothing. You can click on it, but it does nothing because we haven't done any JavaScript action with it yet. So it's just cosmetic thing that you can change. For example, change the background. You can change it into different colors, height and width. The size can change. So you can do some cosmetic change of it. So you can try that yourself. And yeah, so like before you just copy and paste the code and change things up, I don't recommend you change things directly here, because if you mess up, then you can always come back and copy it again. Okay, so text input. So a button is very simple, but sometimes you want some input from your user that, for example, is a value or a label. It could be a string, it could be a numerical value, but you want some kind of input from the user that is more than just a click or a slide or a select, right? So, and then text box is super useful. It's very versatile. You may want to check the input value, but the user can input any values that they want, so it's very versatile. So yeah, the parameters that it take in would be a value. So this will be the default value that's shown here. You can leave it empty if you don't want any default value. You see there's nothing here. You can change it into, well, of course, well, sometimes you want to leave it blank because like username or things that may not have a default value. Label would be the label here at the top. So label, that's the very simple title you have here. Okay. So yeah, you just do it like you do with the figure. You just show it. So it's same with buttons. Sorry, I skip over that. Not explaining it too much, but yeah, it's very similar to creating a figure. But instead of creating a figure, you create some kind of models, which are the widgets. So text input here, button for the others here. So yeah, so instead of figure, you just create a widget. So again, try it yourself. Copy and paste the code here and change it up like I did before, and change up the value and the title here. Change the appearance if you like. You can check what you can change by looking at the documentation. So slide bar is one of my favorite things because well, I'll tell you why I love it in a second. But it got a start and an end value. So you can kind of have a limit of what. So compared to the numerical values that people put in a text box, you can limit it the maximum and the minimum, right? So this is quite good because you can kind of verify the user input already intrinsically. Value. So this is the default value. could be suggest someone to start with this value. Step would be how defined your slide bar is. So so you want it to, every time you slice, it can't be smaller than 0.1. So so the precision will be 0.1. So you can see that like 1.110, 1.20, you can't go for 1.15 because the step is 0.1, right? So title, again, you can put the title. And another thing I love about slide bar is that the value will be shown here. So instead of you have to guess, it will just show you what value you're now at. So the max is 10. You can see you can go beyond 10. The mean is 0. You can go beyond to the negative value, and you can't go really like to, you can only go to like the 0.1 precision. So this is very nice for a numerical input. I really like it. It could be a kid could use it, right? So you don't have to, well, if it's an adult user, you can tell them, okay, the min is 0, the max is 10, and you can only, so the error would be 0.1. You can't have, more defined than that. But for a kid, you can't tell them, like, they will be like scratching their head. What do you mean? If you're using this as an education tool, a slide bar is perfect because you can kind of control the value without them really knowing. Yeah. So yep, so you can again do some exercise. So yeah, this notebook, a lot of times in the first part, you just try to fiddle around with all these settings, try to get yourself familiar with how to use them, because we're going to use them in the later part of this exercise. So select, again, is very good because you can have a set value. So options, you can limit the options to what people can choose. So for example, if you have different markets, for example, their country names, there will be the market for selling the goods in your company. Then maybe you don't, well, your product is not available in every single country, right? It may be, so, whoa, I see a lot of, is it a comment? Okay, that's fine. I will go back to the comment afterwards. But yeah, so you may have like, your product in a few countries. It may be available in India, available in UK, available in, I don't know, Europe. Europe is a region, let's say, because it's EU. So so yeah, but it's not available, for example, in Singapore, not available in Taiwan or Hong Kong. Then don't put them in the list, and then people can only limit to choose those things, right? So you can have a limited choice. So again, you can have a predefined value. There's cats. I think it will be nothing if you put nothing here. Let me try that. Oh, it still won't. It will just pick the first one. So you can't have a non-value for this one because it needs to be one of these. So it will just pick the first one if you don't put in anything. So yeah, you see that it's kind of like, I don't know whether you can see it from my screen, but try it yourself. It will be a drop-down menu that with the options that you have. So yeah, like I said, it's very useful if you want to limit the input from your user rather than them typing. There would be typos, there would be like spelling mistakes, and also they would put in some options that are not options. Then you have to tell them, no, sorry, this is not available. Or things. Yeah, then just limit the choice when they input it, right? So it's very good for either both like educational project or even for your professional report, because your client may have, you want to limit the choices so they know what to do. They won't put in some random text for your text input. So that's the advantage of a drop-down menu compared to a free text input. So so diff is a little bit different from the previous widgets that I introduced. Actually, there are more than this notebook showcases. There are lots of different widget choices. So if you have an idea, if you want like, oh, I want an input that the user input like that, check whether there's something available in the bookcase documentation. For example, radio buttons. So sometimes, you want, well, the common thing you see in the online form, right? You can like, sometimes not drop down menu, but like, a few options, you check it or uncheck it. There are some like radio buttons that you out of 3 of them, you just pick one. Yeah, those are also available in Bokeh, but I'm not showcasing it here, so feel free to check the documentation and found it. But diff is a little bit different from your other widgets, because diff, if you have done some HTML hacking, then diff is actually just means a block of display, right? So so a block of display is that it's kind of like using as an output rather than getting input from a user. So what you can do is that you can change up the text. So you can put some text in a block that is this div. So then the special thing about div is that this text is not a pure text. It's actually an HTML rendered text. So you can use HTML tag in here. So you can add in a link. So you can add in some bold kind of things here, italic. So let's see. Yeah, so it could be a HTML supported text that can have a link. It can have you can format the text. You can even change up the color or make it a header, whatever. Put in a picture. As long as it's HTML, then you could put it in a div, and it will render as a HTML kind of block. It kind of looks like a part of a website. Let's put it this way. So to know more, you can actually look up some online. W3 School is quite good resources for HTML and also JavaScript as well. So W3 School is something that you could look up, like, oh, what does this href mean, and like, oh, what does this HTML tag mean? You can look it up and learn a little bit of HTML. Again, not a lot, but just enough so that you can do a little bit fancy thing with your output. You don't even need it. You can just use it as plain text, but it's quite nice that you could do that as well. So yeah, so yeah, now it's not interactive because, like I said, this is output. So the user basically is kind of like a display back to the user. So maybe reflect the changes that they have made. So instead of changing the graph, you can also change this text here. So maybe if the user, for example, they choose the market to be, let's say they choose Asian market, then the graph will be showing in the Asian market. Then maybe you want to change the description. So like, okay, here we are showing the Asian markets, how is it doing in the last year? So things like that. So you have to change the word, right? So because if they change a Europe market, then the graph will be European market, and also the text may change. Like, oh, here's like the showing the Europe market excluding UK because UK is leaving the EU in the last year or something like that. So yeah, it could be done like that. So yeah, so that's why I also tell you a little bit about div. Yeah, W3 School, there's a good resources that you learn a little bit of HTML basic and formatting. So just a little bit enough for you to do all these fancy things. Putting links there, it's useful always to put links and pictures maybe. So those you can do. So okay, let me take a quick sip of coffee and have a look at the questions to see if there are any questions and anything there. Yeah. Yeah, I see there's a question regarding the first notebook. There is about the legend bar, legend label not accepted in VBar. So I run it in the latest version of Bokeh, which is 2.2.3, and it works. So maybe you want to check your version as well, because sometimes if version change, with the library, that they may change up how to use all this attribute, right? Because they may make some changes to it. So double check. And also VBar, you show it as capital. So I don't know whether you are using it the same as the one in the code. So yeah, let me know what version you're using, so I can also troubleshoot your problem later. Okay, so if there's no more questions, then I would go back to this notebook. So JavaScript callback. So now we are going into the deep dive. So it's getting more and more complicated, but you would be able to handle it, don't worry. So again, it's good to have something at hand to help you out. For this part, you may need to have the W3 School JavaScript tutorial. Like I said, you don't need to know a lot. You just need to know all these equivalents. So you may be like, oh, how to write an if-else statement in JavaScript. Then you can look it up in the JavaScript tutorial, because it will basically work the same as Python. There's nothing fancy, just if-else, and if then, well, if then else, and else if, all these things, right? So look at it, and then but the syntax is different because JavaScript use all this like curly bracket and all this stuff, but the reason behind how it works is the same. So you just need to change up a little bit of your code, then it will work. So JS link. So this, okay. So this JS link is something in Bokeh. So we are not using JavaScript yet. So you see that here we load up a few things. So first of all, we are playing with the widgets, right? So we have the text input like we had before, and the div that we had. So now you can see that it's just a text input. Someone can put something in here. So the default is something. And so this div is showing hello. So this is nothing strange here, but now you can see that I use the JS link to link things up, right? So for this text input object, there is actually a method called JS link, and in the JS link, you can put in the first argument. So this here is not very explanatory, right? So the first argument means that what attribute we want to change. We want to change a value attribute. No, sorry. So let me try it again. So the first attribute is that what is the first end of this link. So the first end of this link is the input dot value. So it's the value attribute of this input. So it's 1 point. So what is the thing on the other side? So on the other side is the other object, which is div, and the other attribute, which is the text. So we are linking. So well, we don't have to put text input here because it's self, right? Because we are calling its method. So it's the first one would be self. We don't have to type that because Python, you don't have to type self or a attribute. So this actually is a text input. Okay, the mother or the point A is a text input. So it's the object. What attribute? So the point A's attribute is value. So text input dot value is linked to div.text. Okay, so this is the two end of the thing. So it's a bit strange because, well, like I said, because text input itself, we don't have to put it here. But here's how it works. So you link two objects attribute together. So now value of text input should equals to div.text when this thing got executed, right? So when something triggers it and it will work. So, and then this one just show a column. You know, if you remember what you did in the first notebook, that is just means that it's, you know, text input and then div just put this on top of each other. Okay, so now we have to trigger this JS link to work, right? So now it's still something and hello, so it's only the default value. So to make it work, we have to do some changes in the text input here. So it can be something blah blah blah. So someone say a lot of things. So if you press enter, then it will change. So so at text input, if you press enter, it triggers this JS link to work. So so it depends on what widget it is. So the trigger could be different. For button, you click on it, of course. For slide bar, you slide it, so you change the value of the slide bar, it will trigger it. So for text input, you press enter and it triggers it. You can go back to something, right? You can also, for example, if I run this again, so you go back to default, even if you don't type anything, if you just press enter, it won't do anything because you haven't changed anything. So you have to change the value and press enter to trigger this to work. So I put a space bar here, then it changed, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, it will change. And then I think you can put an emoji here as well. So let me be funny and put an emoji here. So I put a smiley face here and I press enter. Okay, so smiley face may not work. Yeah. Okay, so Bokeh doesn't, okay, support smiley face. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, okay, so you can't just put an emoji there, you have to put something, but emoji does work. Yeah. So I think it's just because some funny thing with the intrinsic, you know, Jupyter Notebook or like or my plugin for. But yeah, you can put emoji there. If you copy and paste some emoji somewhere, then you can put it in here. It's fine. So yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Just a small tip for the Mac users. If you want to display your emoji keyboard, you can press Control Command and space, so it will directly show your emoji keyboard.
Oh really? I didn't know that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Shift Command and space.
No, Control Command and
Control
space.
Command and space. Does it? Oh yes. Oh my God, I learned something new today. I can add in the yeah, that's so
Yeah.
cool. Thank you. Yeah. Right. So if you're not a Mac user, you can go to use whatever you put in emoji, because I love emoji. I always test it with my my code. Okay. So yeah, so it's kind of now you have something interactive already. Then yeah, try it out yourself. And I think this one we are playing with the slide bar, so we try to link. So now it won't work because yeah, now nothing is doing because you haven't put in the code here. This is for your exercise. You have to link the slide bar and the button together. So we're trying to link the yeah, so the control the width. So the slide bar's value actually need to link to the button's width. So again, remember that JS link A and B. So what is A, what is B, and what is the object, what is the attribute? So you can try it out. So again, if you're struggling, ask questions now, or type it in the type found in the documentation, or type it in the chat here. So yeah, so if you done it correctly, when you slide it, this button will go crazy. It will go really big and really small and all this. But yeah, I'm not spoiling it for now. If we have time, and maybe I will show you at the end if people are struggling. But I think you all are very smart. You can do it. So yeah, now we can change the aesthetic of a plot. So instead of changing the appearance of a widget, because these two widgets are linked together, so you may see that a widget actually just work like a plot. So we could also change the appearance of a plot. So you see here, we have the plot that is a figure, like we did in the first notebook. And also we have a some circle that we plot, so we call that R. Okay, so you see here we are using the JS link again. So the select here, so select, we have three options. So select have a default value olive. So this is what we've done above, so it's fairly familiar with you. So now we want to link the value of the select. So select select dot value. Okay, so B, okay, B is a little bit different this time. Because attribute is the field color, because we want to change the color. So if you look it up in documentation, it says field color. So this is how you change the color. But instead of just R, which are the circles, we need to use R.graph. So is this spell funny, right? GLYPH, graph. This is an attribute that Bokeh created to means that the object inside this graph. So yeah, it's a bit funny. But so instead of just R, you have to use R.graph, because R contains a lot of things, right? R contains values, contains a lot of, but besides the value, is also include all these, cosmetic settings. So graph is something that stores these cosmetic settings, so you can change the field colors in it. So you see if it works correctly, you can change the color of it. Yeah, so this one is already written for you, so you can just play around and see how the magic work. This is quite cool, right? So well, of course, now it's just changing the appearance. It doesn't do much, but well, but so for actual use case, you may have like if you want to change the color theme, for example, for color blindness, or if someone have a dark theme for their browser, then they may want to use a different color, then this would do. So yeah, so you can see that you have to call R.graph to change the object in the plot. So because R contains, like I said, contains some intrinsic things, some values and stuff. So graph means the object. Okay. So so now we can use the code above. So keep this code, but adding one more thing. So now we want to add a slide bar to change the alpha. So instead of color, so we also want to change the transparency, because you may want it to be more fancy. You may put a picture below behind, so you can, it depends on the vibrant of the picture that you may want to change the transparency of your circle. So I just copy the code above so you don't have to do it again, but just change things up, like where you can keep this JS link, or you can create a new link with a new object that, you know, create a new slide bar and then put a new slide bar in a column and create a new link. That would work as well. Or you can just replace this select menu into a slide bar. That's also fine, but you won't be able to change the color. Yeah, so let's try that, and yeah, and we'll be back. So now it's getting more and more interesting, right? So we can now change a lot of things, and then but now it's just for fun. But later you'll see that it's actually useful. So uh, so now we can do JS on change. So we now this time, so before we just link some attribute together, so it's restricted to only linking some values. But what if I want to do some calculation before I export the value, right? So sometimes let's say I change the slide bar to a radius of the circle, but then, for example, I want to have a text showing the size of the circle. I need to do some calculation, right? So how can I do the calculation interactively? So the way to do it is to use custom JS, because JS is a programming language. It could do calculation. Most programming language can do calculation because that's what a computer is good at. So so this is 99.9% of the case, I would say. So we have a lot of things in our graph here now. So we have our text input. So again, you can say something, and then we also do the same thing, but instead of